Palantir stock is crashing, and if you bought the hype, you're likely frustrated right now. But don't panic. The last time I talked about Palantir on the channel was all the way back in January, just before the released earnings and just before the stock nearly doubled to $125. I was incredibly bullish back then, but am I as bullish today? Let's find out. But before we get into the video, if you find any value in this, can I ask you to smash the like button? It literally costs nothing, but it helps the channel out so much. I'm aiming to get 1,000 likes on this video. Help me achieve that goal. For anyone that's new, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new content like this. I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, so always do your own due diligence. Now let's get straight into it. So what is Palantir Technologies? Palantir is a software company that builds the world's leading platforms for data-driven operations and decision-making. Palantir specializes in data analytics. Its software lets businesses capture and integrate data, develop and manage AI and machine learning models, and build applications that incorporate those data sets and models. These applications help workers make better decisions, and Palantir develop long-term partnerships with organizations working together to help them realize the value in their data and transform how they operate. The company provides solutions for many industries such as automotive, cyber, financial compliance, law enforcement, and defense forces, among others. It serves various private enterprises, public institutions, and non-profit organizations. Palantir is a fully global company and has operations in North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, but Palantir is headquartered in the US. So that's a very simple breakdown of what Palantir is and what they do. Looking at the recent investors presentation, Palantir reported encouraging financial results in Q4. Palantir beat analyst estimates with very encouraging results, and the stock went insane after the earnings report. So let's take a look at this to see why the stock went up and then figure out what has gone wrong to cause such a massive drop. US commercial revenue grew 64% year over year and total revenue grew 52%, but only 12% from the previous quarter. US government revenue also grew by 45% year over year, with the average existing customer spending more. In turn, revenue increased 36% to $828 million, and Palantir recorded an adjusted EPS of 14 cents. Palantir also recorded adjusted free cash flow of $517 million. US commercial, or DV, grew 99% to $1.79 billion, and the company closed a record-setting $803 million of commercial total contract value, which is an increase of 134% year over year, as well as maintaining a very strong Rule of 40 score, which is a very important metric for software as a service companies. For the full year, Palantir's revenue grew up to $2.8 billion, with an adjusted EPS of 41 cents and $5.2 billion in cash. So all of these are very impressive numbers. Palantir stock has fallen 40% from its high. History says this will happen next. Palantir was one of the hottest AI stocks on the market in 2024 and even got added to the S&P 500. In fact, with shares soaring 340%, it was the top performing member of the S&P 500 last year. Palantir started 2025 on fire and shot up a further 65%, peaking at $125 in February. But it finally stalled as the Trump administration focused on defense budget cuts and the risk of tariffs that could push the US economy into a recession. Now, Palantir stock has fallen 40% from its February high, but the stock fell even further once before. And that incident provides some reassurance from investors. History says that Palantir will eventually recoup its losses. Palantir peaked at $39 a share in early 2021 as investors became overconfident. The government was spending trillions of dollars on stimulus programs to keep the economy afloat during the pandemic, and the Fed was holding interest rates near zero based on the assumption that inflation was transitory. In reality, however, stimulus checks combined with supply chain disruptions led to the most severe inflation since the 1980s. When the Fed finally intervened and interest rates shot up, it sent the S&P into a bear market, and Palantir stock dropped 85% by December 2022. However, Palantir shares soared as the S&P 500 recovered. The stock not only blew past its previous high in October 24, but it also returned 1,200% during the 2-year period. In effect, Palantir rewarded investors who purchased shares at the bottom with 13-fold returns over a very short time period. Now, it seems that there are two arguments for Palantir right now. The extreme bear case is that Palantir is overvalued and it's going to drop to $20 or lower. And to be fair, the people that have this argument, when the stock was only $20, the same people were saying that it was going to drop to $5. It's the same argument all the time for the past 2 years. With this sort of a mindset, you miss out on opportunities. These people would have missed out on Palantir's massive run from under $20 to over $120 in 2024 and the beginning of this year. Now, on the flip side of that, you have the bullish argument that the stock will keep going up no matter how crazy their price to sales multiples become. And we've seen a lot of this over the past 2 years, and it's worked out very well for a lot of people. But it is not that simple. It's not a case that the stock is either going to skyrocket or crash and burn. Usually the facts are somewhere in between these two arguments, so let's explore some Palantir facts. The simple fact is that Palantir's business is stronger than ever before. Even despite the current economic climate, Palantir has been announcing new customers on a very consistent basis. Only a couple of weeks ago, Palantir announced 6 new customers deploying warp speed to accelerate manufacturing capabilities and enable their advanced fleet management. Deals with Epirus, Red Cat, Sales Drone, Saronic, SNC, and Ursa Major represent the most visionary leaders, technologies, and manufacturing operations. Palantir's head of industrials, Emily Nguyen, stated that we are extremely proud to enable the companies who share our sense of responsibility for the power of American production. The key word here being American production. Of course, the buzzword at the moment is Donald Trump's tariffs, which are based on exports to America. One of the focuses of the administration is to bring production back to the US. So these kinds of deals from Palantir are actually very good in the current economic climate. Now, obviously, a lot of companies, a lot of stocks are going to plummet in 2025 and some will never recover. But history shows us that the best companies always survive. Their competition, though, get wiped out, and when the economy turns back around, when the markets return to positive sentiment, it is these companies that survived. They are the major ones to prosper. And Palantir has a competitive advantage in its software architecture. They design data analytics software for commercial organizations and government agencies. CEO Alex Karp says that Palantir's key differentiator is its ontology-based software architecture, stating that we have differentiated because in order to actually make AI work, you need ontology. Nobody else has ontology. There are reasons that Palantir's customers are increasing at such a rapid rate, that revenue is jumping 6 consecutive quarters, and that net income is rising at an extreme rate. Palantir also guided for 36% revenue growth in the first quarter. And the company is well positioned to maintain that momentum. As it says here, Forrester Research recently recognized the company as a leader in artificial intelligence and machine learning platforms. Palantir is quietly becoming one of the largest players in the market, according to analyst Mike Gualtieri. The International Data Corp estimates AI platform sales will increase by 40% annually through 2028. But Palantir does have some problems too. Now, Palantir will be releasing their next earnings report on May 5th. So guys, if you want to see an earnings preview over the next week or so, then let me know in the comments. When we look at MarketBeat, we can see that Palantir has a price target of $75, which is pretty much what the stock price currently is. But as always, Palantir divides opinions so much. There is 4 buy ratings, 5 sell ratings, and the majority of analysts are sitting on the fence with 15 hold ratings. Now, the most recent of these ratings has been set in the past 48 hours in response to the growing economic uncertainty due to tariffs. Loop Capital have reiterated their buy rating, but they have not set a price target. The most recent price target set was in the past 4 days, and this is $90. It's worth noting here that in the past 2 months, there is not a single price target that is lower than today's current share price. But as I said earlier, there is always the bearish argument around Palantir's valuation. So this is very interesting. Palantir achieved a peak price to sales ratio of 106 in February. Several Wall Street analysts had expressed concerns about its valuation in the preceding months, but many investors ignored the warnings as the stock plowed higher. So interestingly, the author's research turned up some interesting information after reviewing the valuations of over 50 software stocks from the past decade, and only 6 others achieved a price to sales multiple over 100. All 6 eventually fell at least 73%, and the average peak to trough decline was 80%. If Palantir follows this trajectory, the price will drop 80% from its February high, near $125 per share. That implies a price of $25 per share. Palantir trades at 72 times sales, nearly triple its historical average of 25. But this is an excellent business. Investors should be cautious about buying shares today. The stock is not necessarily cheap just because it's down 40% from its record high. But guys, what do you think? Will Palantir drop to a price as low as $25, or can the company survive the current crisis intact? Let me know your price target for Palantir stock in the comments section. As always, I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. This is just my opinions and some information that I thought was very interesting to look at today. So if you enjoyed this analysis, then please like and subscribe. I hope you have a great weekend and I'll catch you in the next